Welcome to the next edition of 32 Bar Talk. My name is Ivan, and I'm really delighted to be able to present you quite possibly the future of guitar, Mr. Matteo Mancuso. Matteo, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Tell us, what are you up to? You played here last night in Brno at the Sono Center. In a couple of days, you're supposed to be playing Paris.
Yeah.
Is that the end of the tour for the European leg, or what are your plans after that?
Yeah, Paris will be the last gig, and after Paris, I will finally be back home. Yeah.
And I saw some American dates on your website for this year. Is there? What are your plans to do in between those live situations?
Well, in between, I will for sure work on some new songs, some new material. I always do that, especially this year that I don't have much time to stay at home because you have tons of gigs and it's incredible because I love to play live. Yeah. But you have few time to work on some new things, and the repertoire we have is coming from the first album that got out in 2023. Yeah. But actually we played these songs long before 2023, so this repertoire is kind of it gets boring after a while, you know. It's a long time that we play always the same songs, and after a while it gets very hard to have fresh ideas on the same stuff. So that's why I'm concentrating myself on like building new repertoire with my trio, and of course the main goal is to release a new album. If everything goes well, it will be ready by the end of this year.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. What's your when you're mentioning the material, how do you collect ideas? Is it you sitting in a room and then checking with the guys, or do you need the band chemistry of the people together in one room?
Well, it's a mix of both, because I need time alone to develop the idea first, and then for the arrangement part, I can get some help from the bandmates, like from the drummer, from the bass player, to like have ideas on their part, but the song needs to be there in the first place. I first write the song myself. I don't do many arrangement stuff. I think the demos should sound bad because if the demo sounds too good, then the guys will try to sound like the demo. I see. And I want to like bring your own ideas to the demo. I don't want you to sound exactly like the demo, because I can't write really good drums. I can't write like really good bass lines because I'm not a bass player and I'm not a drummer. So for that kind of stuff, I always try to get help from real, proper drummers and bass players.
It's a very interesting strategy. Do not make it too good on the demo version. Yeah,
do not make it too good. Otherwise, the idea should be different from the demo. You know, the arrangement. Of course, I try to finish the song because the guys I work with, Gianluca and Riccardo, are based in Milan and I stay in Palermo. So we see each other when I have some new material ready, you know. So I need to have the songs ready when they come in Palermo to record. Yeah.
Right. Matteo, you're such a phenomenon on so many levels, considering your guitar technique, your musicality, your young age in which you became this phenomenon, your attitude towards gear, and even marketing. I'd like to touch on all of these topics. Yeah. But let's just sum up briefly your history for our audience. Let's just do a quick summary. So you were born in Sicily. Yeah. And your dad is a classical guitarist who started teaching you, or better to say leading you, on your musical journey when you were 10 years old. Yeah. And what was very surprising to me, considering especially your right-hand technique, is that you didn't start playing classical guitar first. You started playing rock and roll. Yeah, is that right?
First of all, because my father has kind of the same story as mine. He didn't start with classical guitar. He studied classical guitar later. He started more like a rock player himself, you know, and he was playing with the pick back when he started. And later on, he developed a little bit of classical guitar skills. And the thing with me, the strange thing, is that I started playing electric guitar because I was listening a lot of bands like AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, you know, and that was the sound I wanted to hear. So electric guitar was way more attractive to me than classical one. And I started playing with fingers because I saw my father playing both electric and classical with fingers at that time, because he was experimenting a little bit also with the fingerstyle technique, also with the electric guitar. But myself, when I was 10 years old, I didn't know about this difference, like that you should use a pick for the electric and fingers for classical. So I just started using fingers for everything, you know. And then, of course, I discovered about the existence of the pick, let's say. But I was too lazy to restart again because I was too used to this kind of technique, and it was comfortable from the start, I have to say. And my father was a good listening guide also, not only a teacher, because I was listening to a lot of different stuff from the start. And the rock stuff were pretty much my introduction to electric guitar playing, let's say. And then I started studying classical guitar when I was about 14, 15 years old, maybe, but when I was in high school, of course.
Yeah, sure. So I know that your first guitar hero was Eddie Van Halen. So what's your favorite record of Van Halen?
Well, I think the first one will be my favorite because it's still a lot more bluesy, let's say, than the last records that were more like song-oriented, let's say. But I really like the rawness there is on the first record, the fact that they played everything, like first take, okay, let's go to another song, like no overdubs, no everything, it feels real, you know. And I really wanted to achieve that also on some of my records, let's say, especially on live stuff. I want to people concentrate more on the energy that comes from it rather than the pure technical performance, let's say. And that's what I like about Van Halen, that especially the first record, you can hear that this kind of power that they have both on stage and on recording. So Van Halen was one of the first guitar heroes that influenced me a lot, and you can hear it on the tapping stuff I do. Sure. You can hear it on the vibrato and the bending stuff. So he's still one of my favorite players.
But inevitably later on you got much more sophisticated guitar heroes and sources of inspiration, be it jazz, blues, fusion, not necessarily even guitarists. Other soloists that did inspire you. You studied jazz. You were awarded a scholarship at the Berklee School of Music, which you didn't attend, did you?
I didn't attend. I didn't go to Berklee, and one of the reasons was that I already started jazz guitar at the conservatory in Palermo, and I found myself really good there. And plus the level was really good. I really found a lot of drummers and bass players to play with, and so I didn't really saw too many reasons to go there. Also because I was having a partial scholarship, you need to also pay all the other stuff, and that was one of the reasons. I think I got the 30K scholarship, and it's the highest one you can achieve when you go to the Umbria Jazz Clinics, for example. So it was already a really good scholarship, let's say. But at the end of the day, I decided not to go for various reasons, you know.
Sure.
And that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, let's say, because it's one of the choices you make in life that maybe you think about it later, you think, oh, maybe that was a bad decision or a good one. You can't really know, because if I did go to Berklee, maybe I would never start a trio with Riccardo Gianluca, and things would have gone differently, of course. So you'll never know. But I'm pretty happy with my decisions in life, because the conservatory in Palermo was a really great experience to me, and that was it.
Well, things started getting really huge for you when you started playing with your trio Snips, with which you recorded amazing versions of very technically demanding songs. And put them on YouTube, and then that's where it blew all over the internet.
There were the first videos that did go viral, let's say.
And then 2020, you said to yourself that you would be writing your own songs, and 23 you released the Journey album.
That was the change that I had to make, because Nips was a very like cover oriented project, let's say. So we didn't really have, and I think we were too young to being able to deliver a project that was original oriented, not cover oriented, you know.
Sure.
So that's why I decided to like make another trio and try to concentrate myself more on songwriting rather than trying to find a good cover that has the most views, let's say. So that was the change that I had to make back in 2020. And let's say the Snips was more cover oriented, but we had a lot of fun. It was a really funny development. Like we did this crazy version of Spain where every time the theme goes by, something changes, like the chords or the harmonic movements. Or it was a really fun project to stay in. And I think the first one we did was The Chicken back in 2017, and we played Yesterday, I think was the last song.
And how were you choosing the covers? Did you watch the reactions of the audience, or did you just go for what you?
Well, we did go for, first of all, it was the most popular fusion standards, let's say. So The Chicken and Spain were the first choices. Then we did some tunes from like our favorite bands, like Tribal Tech, or people like Uzeb, for example. We did a cover of Face First by Tribal Tech, and Scott Anderson, for example, is one of my, like, let's say, more sophisticated players, blues fusion players. And so it was kind of a more, okay, I'm studying this, why we don't make a cover about this? So it was kind of a school project more than an original one.
It's pretty cool, very authentic. It seems that your own stuff, when you started writing your own songs, it came just at the right time.
I think it came just at the right time, and I didn't really I didn't want to rush that, because many people come to songwriting immediately. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted to absorb as many things as possible before actually going into the compositional side of things. And I think in the long run, it gets you more depth into the compositional material. So if I wanted to do an album when I was 16 or 17 years old, it would have sounded too much like the influences I had back then. And there was a lot of Eric Johnson, for example, Paul Gilbert,
right,
and a lot of the 80s guys. But all the original material would have sounded too much like those guys. And that's why I prefer to wait in order to develop my own kind of ideas.
Well, you definitely have moments that ring a bell with these guys, but they're not copies. You're not parroting on the new album. You're like, this is kind of like that, but it's his own way of doing it. And that's what I like about the album is that you don't walk around the emotion. You go straight for it. So if it's time to rock, you rock. If it's time to take a gentle turn, you do it. So you don't get caught up in the technical aspect of it, or let's just make it complicated because that's what some people do. You just go for the core of the song. That's what I like about it.
That's kind of my way to compose. Let's say it needs to be very clear. Like, okay, here's the theme, here's the B section, here's the solo. Like, it needs to be incredibly clear. And sometimes you can write a special, but I don't like to. I like to simplify a lot the process of making, like, the structure, like A, B, solo, back to A. It needs to be very ordinate, let's say. And then you can complicate things with the notes, maybe with the passages and all of that. But the structure, I think it needs to be very clear. So you chose the same approach like you're doing now with the new material, with the material for the journey, with your bandmates. So I kind of chose the same approach. Let's say that the journey was more I worked more with the other guys because previously I was working with Giuseppe Bruno and Stefano India, and it was the previous trio I started with back in 2020.
Yeah.
And with those two guys, I worked more like with them on the studio because I was having the chance to play more with them because they live in Sicily also.
Yeah.
And with Gianluca and Riccardo was more like, as I said before, I work on the song myself. I finish the song, I send you the demo, and then you come in Sicily, record the song. So the journey, that there were some arrangements where like we did the arrangement like together in the same room and trying to, you know, develop ideas in real time. And this is a little bit different, but in both albums I always have this philosophy that you need to have a complex element and a simple one at the same time. And I always like to do that on my compositions. Like there's one tune called Falcon Flight, for example, that has a really simple melody, but I like to, because of the simple melody, I wanted to have a complex element on it. So I try to write some chords that weren't really associated with each other, a lot of sus chords and stuff. So you have like complex harmony and simple melody at the same time, and you can usually achieve a good result, like at least a result that I like, if you mix a complex and a simple element.
And what was the recording process? Did you record anything together in a room, or did you you did drums and then bass, or did someone record remotely?
Well, it depends on the song because I have, for example, some songs where I have to play classical guitar. Sometimes I record after, like I have like the drum and the bass part, and I record the classical guitar after I have the final rhythm section. If I have to play electric guitar, I can play on the same room with them. So I like record the lead guitar together with them, but I have some rhythm guitar parts going on that I already recorded. I cannot record right now classical guitar with them at the same time because it will get into the drum microphones. So that's why I always record after my, especially like classical and acoustic guitar parts. Yeah,
but you do get the band vibe going then, because you
I always try to do that. My rule is that at least the more people are recording together, the more real it will sound. Especially when you get to record together bass and drums, it's really, really important to get the rhythm going on. So I always record, it was also for the first album, I always record drums and bass together. If I can record together with them, it's better. If I cannot, that's it. But
Did you work with the producer with this record? Or
no, I actually never worked with a producer outside of my father, let's say. Because my father was also producing some albums from Italian artists back in the 80s and the 90s. It was the period where he was most active, but he was mainly like a session player and also a producer for some of the albums of the artists he worked with. So he kind of helped me out, let's say, how to record properly the drums, for example. And he helped me to, you know, getting to know all the instruments and gear you have on the studio, because I luckily have a studio at home and it was his studio. And then I borrowed some things from him and slowly like revamped the studio and, you know, buying some new gear.
I saw that online, And so how long did it take? How long, the whole process of recording, how long did it take?
Well, it depends on the time you have. Like, I already recorded 2 songs, and it was in November, because November was free, so I took the chance. I wrote 2 songs in that period, and Gianluca and Riccardo came to record. Now we have another 2 songs ready to record, and I think we will record these 2 songs in April. For the same reason, because in April I have less gigs to do, and we have more time to organize that. And it always works like that. Whenever I have 2 more songs ready, or maybe 3, they come to my studio and they record. And then when I have some other stuff ready, like we don't record like the whole album in 1 week. Like,
I see. You collect the...
because I don't want to wait to have like all the songs ready in order to record the album. Like whenever I have something ready, if it is more than 1 song, they come in Sicily and they record.
That's cool. Well, let's get to your gear. First of all, very important part of the gear is your right hand. Do you take any special care of it?
Well, I take care of my nails, for example, and I use nails like classical players, but I keep them really short. They're not too long, and compared to a classical player, of course. The problem with it is that, you know, they tear up over time, they consume. And the advantage you have with the pick, for example, is that if it consumes, you just change it, and it will be the same as before. You cannot do that with fingers, of course, or with nails. So I'm trying to find the right way to keep my nails in shape. I understand that, at least for the electric guitar, keep the nails not too long. It's a good choice. Another thing, to strengthen the nails a little bit, I use a material called acrylic gel, but I only use it for these 3 nails, because these are the 3 that consumes really a lot. This is not really the case. This is the only natural nail I have, because the thumb doesn't consume too much. But for these 3, I need to have like something on the nail to strengthen it a little bit. So I have like a mix of real nail and acrylic, and of course flash. It's part of the sound. But sometimes if you don't take care of it, they will get in the way while you're playing, and it's really a mess to play with nails.
Sure. How much time a day do you play? How many hours a day?
Well, if I have to be honest, it's not enough, especially in these periods where you get busy and you cannot really like study new things. You know, you always out touring, playing always the same set. You know, you get to a point where you are really confident about the songs you are playing, because like we did 11 shows in a row, so it's really. You get a lot of ideas going on the songs. You know the structures pretty well, but sometimes it's hard to get new things because there are always the same songs, always the same structures. Of course, we try to improvise a lot, so that's one thing that saves our brain. But when I'm at home, I usually in this period I try to play every day. First of all, I try to play mostly in the morning because my brain is fresh in the morning, you know. I sometimes play also in the night, but usually the most effective practice sessions are in the morning. And I usually play up to 4 hours sometimes. But maybe it's 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, but it's like a total of 4 hours.
Just practicing, just the practice.
Just practice, just playing. Like I don't have like a strict practice routine, like 1 hour of arpeggios and 1 hour of scale. I'm not like that. I don't have the patience to do it like that. I just play whatever comes to my mind, whatever like excite me the most in that moment, and I try to develop that. I improvise a lot. I try to improvise, and whenever I have something that I can't really do in the first place, like I stop the backing track and I work on it. And it's more like I try to connect the brain to the fingers. Most of my practice routine is this.
It's very creative.
Now
you're playing Yamaha guitars. First videos I saw of you were playing Gibson SG. So how did the switch happen?
Well, I think SG is still one of my favorite guitars. So back when I started working with Yamaha, I was searching for something that was similar to the SG, and I already played some things that were like jazz oriented, or let's say fusion oriented, and everything in between. So the SG was a really good choice for me back in the day because first of all it's a small guitar, so it's really comfortable to me to play, and the Revstar was really similar. It's also a small body guitar, and the sound was really similar too. And to me it was a matter of versatility because one of the first choices I made was because the Revstar was having all the sound I wanted to achieve on the jazz side and also the aggressiveness of the rock side. So it was a really versatile guitar for what I wanted to do. So that's why I decided to work with Yamaha in the first place. And then we started to develop some custom models. And the Revstar you saw on the concert yesterday night was a custom model that Yamaha made for me back in 2019. It was like the first prototype of the future signature model, let's say. And so I found myself really good with that guitar because it's really comfortable to play. It has the kind of sound I want to achieve. And then another thing that I developed through the years is learning how to play with the whammy bar a little bit. That's why I decided to bring the Pacifica with me. It's like the Stratocaster of Yamaha, basically. And yeah, those are my main two guitars right now. It's the first tour I make with two guitars, actually. Like before this tour, I was only having the Revstar, but I think for some of the songs, it's better to have a Strat with a tremolo, and it's a good choice.
So what's different on your special custom? Which model? Which I think we still cannot buy yet.
We still cannot buy it. I think there are just a few modifications compared to a regular Revstar model. First of all, it's chambered, so it has tonal chambers inside of it, both for lightweight and both for resonance. And then you have a little on the neck joint. You have like a smooth transition from the neck joint to the body, so it helps you to play better on the last frets. And then I changed the pickups. I have the Marzio 36th anniversary pickups, locking tuners, and what else?
Do you split the pickups?
You can split the pickups, but they are like an out of phase sound, more like a split. Because
isn't that the Falcon Flight? The sound at the end of it?
That was an out of phase sound, basically. And that's why so you have like a total of 5 positions on the switch. Other than that, it's just a regular Revstar, and there are there is also a little plastic thing on between the pickups, and this is where I hold my thumb when I'm playing, like with my right hand position, for example. Other than that, that's it.
And do you have anything? And when you roll down the volume, do you have a treble bleed or so it keeps the highs in the signal?
Well, it gets darker for sure, but not too much. Like I like to, for example, when I'm playing clean, I like to start on 7 with my volume, because the tone is a little bit darker and the attack is not too
so we're using
crazy.
This,
I'm using a lot the volume knob, not so much the tone knob. Like I don't use it that much. Like if it is too bright for me in the in-ears, I roll down a little bit, but I don't usually do that. But for the volume, I use it a lot because I like to have some headroom, especially when I'm playing clean. Because if the drummer is playing too loud, for example, I can go to 10 immediately. But if I start with 10, I don't have enough headroom, let's say.
Do you consider your guitar as like extension of your personality, of your body, or is it? Do you look at it more like a tool that gets you the sounds?
Well, I consider guitar as a tool to express myself. It's a tool to access the musical world, let's say. It's something that I use to get the ideas flowing. and plus it's the only instrument I can play, so
right.
it's not, I don't really have a choice, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm envious of other people that can play also the piano, they can play maybe the trumpet,
Right.
because they can access to this music world in a different way.
I see. Yeah.
And that's a really good way to get different ideas, I think. But you know, guitar is already an incredibly complex instrument to play, so you always find new ideas, and I always have this mindset, you can apply it both on practicing and both on composing, that the more you understand about guitar and how it works, the more you understand about yourself sometimes.
Right.
So the more I always have this mindset that the more I study, the more I understand the things I like about music. So that's why it's an endless process,
right.
Let's say, yeah.
Yeah, well, for amp, you've been using Line 6 Helix for how long now?
Well, it's a long time. I started with Line 6 since 2017. It was more or less the same period where I started playing Rap Stars, because Line 6 and Yamaha are basically the same brand right now. So I started playing digital. First of all, the reason was the the reliability on live. Like you always have the same sound on every gig, and plus it was really comfortable to have it around. You only have one pedal board that does everything, rather than like a bunch of different pedals and an amp. And I think it's way more reliable to have just one thing that does everything, rather than many different things on the stage, because the less you have on the stage, the better it is. Especially like for single pedal boards, if only one cable doesn't work, you will be screwed, and especially if it happens live, you know. And especially for the amp, it depends on the amp you find on the stage. It depends on the stage itself, of course. So if my Line 6 doesn't work, I always have an Helix Stomp available as a spare, you know. So,
locally.
The bass player is bringing also an extra spare
I
for me.
Ask if you have a backup,
So we always have a backup, basically. But I like to have everything in one place, because I'm not really, if I have to be honest, and maybe because I started with digital stuff. But I have amps at home because my father have 2 Marshalls. We have Fender Twin, Fender Princeton, Marshall Plexi, JCM 800.
So you learned the sounds.
So I know how they sound, how pleasant they are when you have it in front of you. And the feeling of the amp can never be replaceable from any kind of digital stuff, simply because of physics. You can never like replicate a 4x12 cabinet speaker coming in front of you with the ears. Like you can never replicate that.
Which is not the point.
But it's not the point, of course, because people always confuse feeling with sound. And the feeling you have on the stage is not the sound. It's a different thing. And if you cannot play with that kind of feeling, I think it's your limit. That's why I always have this philosophy that I want to hear what the people hear outside. And with digital simulation, you have a more clear idea of what people are hearing. Because when you are on the stage, you are hearing the amp. You are not hearing the PA system coming, outside. With digital stuff, you have like a more clear idea of what the people are listening to.
Sure.
And plus, I never really heard a sound coming from an amp that wasn't replicable with digital stuff, And I'm talking about the sound, not the feeling, because are two different things. So that's why I decided to go with digital. I think it's superior in a lot of ways.
So from the pedal board, you go directly to PA. When you rehearse with the band, you must be using some kind of master amp or something like that. Do you use a?
Well, we usually rehearse with the headphones.
Already,
So I don't need an amp on the room. Like we rehearse with headphones. It takes you like a little longer time because you need to adjust the listening a little bit. But it's way less painful for the ears because Gianluca, for example, plays really loud with the drums.
Right.
So if you are in the same room with him and you stay like 2 hours there, after 2 hours your ears completely exploded, you know. So I always prefer with headphones. Yeah.
So with the in-ears, can you set it up or can you optimize it during the gig yourself? The levels in your ear.
I can modify the level. I cannot modify the mix. We usually have a sound guy,
right?
Like on my left. He's always on my left. Like if I look at him and I point the drummer and they say that, he always like level up the drums. But it depends on the gig, of course. Sometimes we'll have the front of house mix engineer that is our personal engineer. But usually during sound check, that's why we have really long sound checks. We want to make sure that we have the perfect listening on the in-ears. And that's one throwback, I think, for the in-ears, because it's easier to make a good sound with the wedges. Because if you hear too much guitar, you just like go somewhere else. You cannot escape the in-ears. So you need to have a really good listening with the in-ears. So that will be one throwback, let's say. You need to have like really long sound check. And I was having troubles like having a good mix of the drums first. But then you get used to it, of course.
So now you have made some presets downloadable for your signature sounds. You have, if I remember correctly, you have your clean sounds, like 2 of them.
The downloadable ones are really old ones, so they don't really replicate the sounds I have now, because I'm constantly working on finding new sounds that I like more compared to the old ones. So I didn't really have something available online yet that represents the sound I'm using now. So if people want to download it, you need to remember that these were the sounds I was using before. So
And when you were building these, were you approaching it logically? So you were like, I like the matchless sound, I'll go for it first, or we were just fishing through the options?
Well, I have some rules that I want to follow. Like I don't want to change, like if you have a 4x12 for distortion, you don't want to have like a 1x12 for clean. Like it needs to have it needs to be, even if it's simulation, you need to have, I think, always the same size. Because otherwise there will be too much difference. And digital stuff lets you have like a 4x12 for distortion and like a Fender Princeton for clean, but I understood with time that it's not necessarily the right choice to do sometimes. So I always say, if I choose to have everything 2x12, it will be everything 2x12 or 4x12, but it needs to be everything, you know? So you don't need to change too much, because all these units, Helix, it lets you have like 4 amps on the same preset, you know? But you don't really need all of that. So I prefer, like on my most complex rigs, I have 1 amp for distortion and 1 amp for clean. And then all the scenes and different sounds are coming from these 2 amps.
So it's almost as if you had 2 amps, like Eric Johnson.
It's kind of a Eric Johnson kind of rig, let's say, and some of the sounds are Eric Johnson inspired, of course, especially like the clean sound with the mono tape delay and the reverb, the long reverb, and then we use a little trick that I discovered thanks to my sound engineer Simone Zoldan, that we have 3 signals for the guitar. 2 are the stereo that goes XLR straight to the PA, and 1 is a mono signal that goes into a DI, and the mono signal is dry. So if Simone understands that there is too much reverb or delay going on outside, you can always level up the mono. There is dry, and the guitar will be much more on your face, let's say.
Yeah.
If you understand that it needs to be more wet, let's say it like goes down with the mono and you hear more effects. But the effects are always stereo, of course.
Yeah, plus you can reamp if you mix a live version.
If you mix it live, like it does not really reamp it because the dry signal is after the amp. So you cannot really do anything with the sound itself. It's before the reverb and delay, basically. So you can basically choose how much reverb and delay you are listening outside. But in my ears, I always have the reverb and delay I like. So it doesn't change my listening. It changes like the listening of the audience.
And you use this setup for the album?
Not really. I used this setup from this year, basically.
I see.
But
on the album, you were using the Helix?
On the album, I mostly used the Helix, and it was, and I used some reamping too on that album. Like I was recording like the pickup of the guitar, let's say like total dry sound, and the Helix itself without reverb and delay. So I can do everything post. Like if I like the sound of the Helix, I just add the effects. If I don't like it, I maybe reamp it and add some different delay and reverb.
Reamp, you mean with the real amp, even?
You can do that also. I use plugins for the first album because I cannot really do a reamping with a real one.
Well, I get what you mean. So, like you said at the beginning, you're now in the process of getting new material. Do you think, with your eyes on the horizon, exactly where you're going, or you're just taking the stuff, the things as they come?
Well, I don't think. I don't know where I'm headed towards. I don't really know what I'm expecting. I mean, I know what I'm expecting, but I don't really know if everything will go exactly like I have in my mind, of course. So I just enjoy the moment. I consider myself very lucky to do this job. So I always have in my mind that I have to enjoy what I have now, rather than thinking too much how it will develop, let's say. But I have some goals that I would like to achieve. Like, for example, I want to be able to produce more stuff in a faster way, let's say, because for my compositional material, I always take my time a lot, you know. But I would like to have like a routine of composing things, because I really I started to like more and more rehearse new things with my trio, because it gets more interesting. As I said before, we played this album for a long time, so it started to get very boring. So that's why I always like the funniest thing I can do, the most enjoyable thing I can think of is to play with my trio new things, play together, new stuff. And I think the way I'm composing now is more mature compared to the first album. So I think it will be a different album for sure. There will be also always the Matteo Mancuso thing going on. There's always like my style into it, but it's diverse compared to the first one.
Are you planning any vocals?
Not really. Maybe for one song in particular.
Maybe guests?
I will be a special guest, but we still don't know if he will say okay. But most of my stuff are instrumental songs. Like I really like to compose instrumental stuff. I don't know if I will be able to compose a song with vocals, you know, because it's not really what I'm listening to. No.
I see.
So
That's interesting. Do you still get nervous?
Sometimes. Rather than nervous, sometimes you get into a bad mood, and I'm trying to not do that too much, you know. I'm usually in a good mood always,
Yeah.
especially on the stage. I'm always happy to play.
Yeah.
But sometimes if things go wrong, you can get into a bad mood. And I'm always incredibly harsh about myself.
Mhm.
Like I'm my let's say I always pick up the things that I do wrong after a concert. Like, okay, I didn't do this and I didn't do that one, and we did a mistake on the third song, we did another mistake on the fifth one. Like I always have this mindset that in order to be better, you need to have be very honest with yourself. But at the same time, you don't need to do that too much.
Right.
Otherwise, you will not be that happy.
Yeah,
afterwards.
sure.
So it's always a matter of balance, I think. I
Yeah.
get nervous a little bit, but once you go on the stage, usually after the first or second song, you get comfortable. Yeah.
Do you record the live situations?
Yeah, we recorded a live, I think 5 or 6 days ago. We recorded a live session when we played in the Netherlands. There's one full live session recorded. I don't necessarily like when people upload the full concert on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, if it's myself that, like, I record it and upload it, it's okay because it's something I want you to see, you know.
Sure.
But if you have everything uploaded on YouTube, there are like full masterclasses, full concerts also. I mean, it's not good because some people might think, okay, I have it full on YouTube, why I have to go to the concert? I can watch it on YouTube.
Well, it's different. It's always different, but I know what you mean,
Yeah. But I'm okay about making videos, people making videos, but it can be 1 or 2 songs, maybe a solo, like, but it needs to be a fragment of it, not the full thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Matteo, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the show. Good luck with everything you do.
Thank you.
And to our audience, we'll see you very soon in another part of the 32 Bar Talk.
Thank you so much.